There is a moment in all of our lives when we face a choice to stay in a situation that no longer serves us or to walk away with our dignity intact. It could be a toxic workplace, a relationship that drains us, or an environment where we are constantly undervalued. The question isn't whether we deserve better. The real question is whether we have the courage to leave without explaining, justifying, or defending ourselves. There is a profound kind of power in silence, one that most people underestimate. In a world where everyone feels the need to explain themselves, defend their worth, or prove a point, silence stands out. It carries a weight that words often fail to deliver. When you walk away without saying a word, you're not just leaving the situation, you're making a statement that echoes louder than any explanation ever could. Silence is not weakness. It's not avoidance. Silence is a language of self-respect. And only those who understand their own worth know how to speak it fluently. When someone mistreats you, overlooks your value, or questions your worth, the natural instinct is to fight back. We want to explain why we deserve better. We want to defend ourselves, to paint the picture of all the reasons why we are worthy of love, respect, or attention. But here's the truth: people who truly see your value don't need an explanation. And people who don't see your value will never be convinced by your words. The more you try to explain your worth, the more you shrink in their eyes, because real value never begs to be noticed. Silence, on the other hand, is a mirror. It forces people to reflect. When you choose to walk away without a word, you leave space for the other person to confront their own actions. You take away their chance to argue, defend, or justify how they've treated you. The absence of your voice creates discomfort, and in that discomfort, people are left alone with the truth. Most people don't realize what they've had until it's gone. Your silence creates the distance, and in that space, they begin to feel the weight of what they lost. But silence is not just a tool to make others reflect, it's a practice of self-discipline. It takes strength to walk away without explaining yourself. It takes courage to resist the urge to defend your value. Silence is a sign that you've reached a place where you no longer seek permission to be valued. You simply know who you are. And that knowing is enough. It's a quiet confidence that says, I don't need to prove my worth. Either you see it or you don't. Walking away without saying a word is not about playing mind games or manipulating others. It's about reclaiming your energy. Every time you engage in arguments or try to prove your worth, you're giving pieces of yourself away. You're pouring energy into a space that doesn't deserve it. Silence is the ultimate act of self-respect, because it protects your energy. It says, I refuse to waste my voice on places where I am not heard. People expect a reaction. They expect anger. They expect an explanation. When you deny them that, you break the cycle. You remove their power to control the narrative. The beauty of silence is that it leaves room for only one interpretation. You are done. There's no confusion, no mixed signals. Your absence becomes the loudest message of all. It shows that you're no longer available for conversations that diminish your worth. And here's the truth. Silence is the language of those who know their value is not up for debate. It's a language of those who trust that their worth will speak for itself in time. When you walk away silently, you're not walking away to be chased, you're walking away because you finally realize you don't need to be. The right people will always recognize your value without you having to explain it. In the end, silence creates a legacy. It leaves people wondering, reflecting, and often regretting. But the most important part is this: silence isn't for them. It's for you. It's the moment you stop trying to convince others of what you already know. It's the moment you protect your peace above your need to be understood. And when you master the art of silence, you discover a power within yourself that no one can take away. You rise not by fighting for your worth, but by knowing it so deeply that walking away becomes your loudest victory. There's a silent battle that happens within all of us, the battle between seeking validation from others and knowing our own self-worth. It's a battle we've been conditioned to fight since we were young. From the moment we learn how to speak, we're taught that approval is something we should chase. We're praised when we please others and corrected when we don't. Over time, without even realizing it, we start to attach our sense of worth to how others see us. We believe that if people like us respect us or choose us, then we must be valuable. But what happens when that validation never comes? What happens when you're giving your best, showing up, loving, working, and still no one sees your worth? The truth is, self-worth and validation are two completely different things. Validation is borrowed. It's temporary. It's something given to you by others, and anything given by others can be taken away just as easily. Self-worth, on the other hand, is something only you can build. It's rooted in what you believe about yourself, not what anyone else believes about you. The challenge is, most people are so busy chasing validation that they never take the time to discover their own worth. When you rely on validation, you become a prisoner of other people's opinions. You start to measure your value by how others respond to you. If they praise you, you feel worthy. If they ignore you, you feel small. And without even realizing it, your confidence becomes something that rises and falls based on someone else's approval. The danger is when you let others decide your worth, you give them the power to control your life. Self-worth is the opposite. It's built in silence. It's built in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, and when no one is choosing you. Self-worth is knowing you're valuable even when you're being overlooked. It's standing tall even when no one is applauding. It's walking away from spaces that can't see your light, not because you're bitter, but because you refuse to dim yourself just to be noticed. The journey from validation to self-worth is not easy. It requires unlearning everything the world has taught you about needing to prove yourself. It's the process of looking in the mirror and deciding that your value is not up for negotiation, whether anyone acknowledges it or not. You don't need to be chosen to know you're enough. You don't need applause to know you're talented. You don't need someone to love you to know you're worthy of love. When you choose self-worth over validation, something incredible happens. You stop performing for approval. You stop bending, shrinking, and compromising just to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You start setting boundaries not to punish others, but to protect your peace. You become harder to manipulate because you're no longer seeking permission to be valuable. And the irony is when you stop chasing validation, you naturally become more attractive to others. People are drawn to those who carry quiet confidence, those who don't beg to be noticed, but simply radiate self-respect. Choosing self-worth means accepting that not everyone will see your value, and that's okay. Your worth isn't tied to who chooses you. It's tied to who you choose to be. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right environments will always align with you when you stop trying to prove yourself in the wrong places. Walking away from anything that requires you to convince someone of your worth is not a loss, it's a victory. It's a declaration that says, I know who I am and I will not stay where I'm not seen. The most powerful version of you will always be the one who no longer needs to be validated. The one who walks away in silence. The one who stays grounded in their own worth even when the world doesn't clap. Because self-worth isn't built when you're being celebrated, it's built when you're being ignored. And you still refuse to shrink. When you finally choose self-worth over validation, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing what's outside of you and start building what's inside of you. And the moment you realize that everything you've been looking for was already within you, you rise not because anyone gave you permission to, but because you finally gave yourself permission to be enough without saying a word. Detachment is one of the hardest yet most powerful acts a person can master. It's not about cutting people off or walking away in bitterness. It's about learning how to release what no longer serves your growth without losing your peace in the process. Graceful detachment is the art of letting go without anger, without explanation, and without the need to prove a point. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that your peace matters more than forcing something to work. It's the ability to walk away, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that holding on to what isn't meant for you is costing you more than it's giving you. Most people associate detachment with coldness or indifference, but it's the opposite. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you care deeply, but not at the expense of yourself. It means you love, respect, and give your best, but when you feel your value being questioned or your energy being drained, you gracefully step back without making a scene. It's a form of self-respect that says, I deserve to be in spaces where my presence is valued, not just tolerated. Graceful detachment requires emotional maturity. It's easy to leave when you're angry or hurt. It's harder to walk away with love still in your heart. But the most powerful exits are the ones made in silence with no bitterness, no resentment, and no need for closure. When you detach with grace, you're not leaving to teach anyone a lesson, you're leaving because you finally learned the lesson yourself. The lesson that staying in places where you're not fully seen only shrinks you. The lesson that you don't have to fight to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. One of the greatest tests of self-worth is how you choose to leave situations that no longer serve you. Will you beg to be chosen, or will you quietly walk away? Will you argue to be heard, or will you let your absence speak louder than any explanation? Graceful detachment is not passive, it's a silent rebellion. It's the quiet decision to stop fighting for a place where you were never meant to belong. When you detach with grace, you allow people to feel the weight of your absence without needing to explain why you're leaving. You give them the gift of reflection, the space to realize what they lost without you having to spell it out. Most people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. But the beauty of graceful detachment is that you're not leaving to be missed, you're leaving to protect your peace. Whether they realize your value or not is no longer your burden to carry. The hardest part about detachment is letting go of the story you wanted to write. Maybe you believed that person would change. Maybe you thought that job would finally recognize your efforts. Maybe you hoped that friend would see how much you cared. But graceful detachment is understanding that you can't force anyone to see your value, and you don't need to. Your worth is not up for negotiation. The right people will always see you without needing to be convinced. Detachment also teaches you the power of releasing control. We hold on so tightly to people, outcomes, and situations because we fear what will happen if we let go. But the truth is, holding on to what's not meant for you only delays what is. Letting go doesn't mean you failed, it means you're making room. When you detach gracefully, you're surrendering to the fact that what's meant for you will never require you to beg, convince, or fight to stay. What makes graceful detachment so powerful is that it preserves your dignity. There is nothing more attractive, more magnetic than someone who knows how to walk away without bitterness. It leaves a lasting impression because it shows strength without needing to prove anything. It shows that your self-worth is not tied to anyone else's ability to recognize it. Graceful detachment is an act of self-love. It's choosing to protect your energy even when your heart wants to hold on. It's walking away without needing validation or closure. And the moment you master the art of detachment, you reclaim your power. You become harder to manipulate, harder to break, and harder to forget. Because nothing speaks louder than a person who knows their worth and walks away without saying a word. When you learn how to detach with grace, you unlock a new level of peace. You stop trying to force people to see your value, and you trust that what's meant for you will never need to be chased. You understand that walking away isn't losing, it's honoring yourself. And in that moment of silent detachment, you rise not because they finally see your worth, but because you finally see it for yourself. Energy is one of the most valuable currencies we have, yet so many people spend it carelessly without even realizing its worth. Every thought, conversation, action, and environment you engage with is either adding to your value or draining it. The way you spend your energy directly influences your self-worth, your peace, and the life you're building. What many people fail to understand is that energy is not just something you give, it's something you invest. And just like money, where you invest your energy will determine the return you get. The reason energy is so powerful is that it silently shapes everything around you. You might not see it immediately, but the way you direct your energy is constantly creating your reality. When you pour your energy into people who don't value you, into proving your worth, or into situations that leave you feeling empty, you're making a silent transaction. You're spending your most valuable currency on something that will never pay you back. The more you chase validation, argue for your worth, or to be seen, the more energy you're wasting. And what many people don't realize is that the cost of trying to convince others of your value is often your own self-respect. Walking away is not just about leaving a situation, it's about reclaiming your energy. It's about choosing to protect your peace over trying to change what cannot be changed. When you realize that your energy is your currency, you become more intentional about where you spend it. You stop pouring into conversations that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy. Instead, you redirect that energy into yourself, into your growth, your purpose, and your own healing. Protecting your energy doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you finally realize how valuable you are. It means you're no longer willing to bankrupt yourself emotionally just to feel seen or accepted. The most powerful people in the world are not those who fight for attention. They're the ones who quietly protect their energy and allow their presence to speak for itself. They understand that not everything deserves a response, and not everyone deserves access to their energy. One of the greatest lessons in life is understanding that your energy is a privilege, not everyone deserves it. People who don't value your time, your kindness, or your presence are not entitled to your energy. The moment you start treating your energy like currency, you begin to rise. You become harder to reach, harder to manipulate, and harder to drain. Your silence becomes your shield, and your detachment becomes your power. But protecting your energy isn't just about who you walk away from, it's about what you walk towards. When you stop spending your energy on proving your worth, you create space to invest that energy into your own life. You begin to pour into your dreams, your peace, and your own self-worth. You start attracting opportunities, people, and environments that see your value without you having to convince them. Because the truth is, when you respect your own energy, the world starts to reflect that same respect back to you. The most powerful shifts in life happen when you realize that your silence is more valuable than your explanation. Every time you walk away without defending yourself, every time you choose not to argue, every time you protect your peace, you are depositing energy back into yourself. And over time, those deposits compound. They build confidence. They build self-respect. They build a life that no longer requires you to beg for what you're already worthy of. There's a rare kind of power in staying silent, one that most people overlook. In a world where everyone feels the need to explain, defend, or prove themselves, silence becomes a statement of self-respect. It's not about being passive or indifferent, it's about choosing to let your actions speak louder than your words. When you stay silent, you allow your presence, your boundaries, and your decisions to define who you are without needing to convince anyone. Silence is not weakness, it's a reflection of someone who has mastered the art of self-worth. Most people believe that words are the only way to gain respect or prove their point. They rush to defend their character, explain their choices, or argue their worth to those who question it. But the truth is, the more you explain yourself, the more power you give away. When you constantly try to justify your value, you're silently asking for permission to be seen. The most confident people don't explain themselves, they let their actions show who they are. They understand that self-worth isn't something that needs to be argued, it's something that's revealed over time. Staying silent doesn't mean you're avoiding the truth, it means you're trusting the truth to reveal itself. It's choosing to rise above unnecessary conversations that drain your energy. It's understanding that people will see what they want to see, no matter how much you explain yourself. Instead of trying to convince others of your worth, you let your actions create the proof. You show up, do the work, stay consistent, and walk away from anything that no longer aligns with your value. Silence is not about being cold, it's about setting boundaries without the need for confrontation. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that you don't owe everyone an explanation. When someone disrespects you, the loudest response is to remove your presence. When someone underestimates you, the best answer is to keep growing without needing to announce it. When someone tries to provoke you, the greatest power is not giving them the reaction they expect. Silence becomes your shield, protecting your peace while letting your actions speak for themselves. What most people don't realize is that silence creates curiosity. It makes people wonder what you're thinking, how you're feeling, or why you've chosen to step back. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you shift the power dynamic. You're no longer seeking validation, you're observing who truly values your presence without needing constant reassurance. People who genuinely respect you will never need long explanations. They'll see your worth in how you carry yourself, how you set boundaries, and how you silently choose yourself every time. Walking away without saying a word is not about pride, it's about self-discipline. It takes more strength to stay silent than it does to argue for your worth. Anyone can talk, but not everyone can master the patience to let actions reveal the truth. Silence shows that you're secure enough to let time unfold what words could never fully explain. The right people will always feel your absence without needing to hear your explanation. But silence isn't just about how you handle others, it's also about how you handle yourself. It's about learning to resist the urge to react when your emotions are high. It's about creating space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. When you stay silent, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You stop acting out of impulse and start responding from a place of self-respect. The most powerful shifts in life happen in silence. Your glow-up happens in silence. Your healing happens in silence. Your self-worth is built in the moments when no one is watching, when you're choosing yourself behind closed doors. Every time you walk away without needing to explain yourself, you're depositing energy back into your own growth. You're silently building the life that one day will speak for itself. When you let actions define you, you remove the burden of proving yourself. You free yourself from the need to be understood. Not everyone will see your journey or understand your decisions, and that's okay. You don't rise by forcing others to see your value. You rise by knowing your value and letting your life reflect it. Absence holds a power that few people understand. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, heard, and validated, stepping away can feel like the last thing you should do. But the truth is, your absence often makes a louder statement than your presence ever could. The power of absence is not in punishing others, it's in reclaiming your value without needing to explain it. It's the quiet decision to remove yourself from spaces where your worth is not recognized and let your absence remind people of what they took for granted. Most people believe that if they stay longer, explain more, or fight harder, they'll eventually be seen. They think that by holding on, they can prove their worth. But the harsh truth is your value is never something you should have to convince anyone of. The more you try to prove yourself in spaces where you're not valued, the more you lower your own worth in the process. Absence is a silent message that says, if you cannot see my value while I'm present, you'll feel it when I'm gone. The power of absence isn't rooted in manipulation, it's rooted in self-respect. It's the understanding that you don't have to force anyone to appreciate you. You don't need to beg to be seen, heard, or loved. Walking away isn't weakness, it's the highest act of self-worth. Because sometimes the only way to show how much you're worth is by removing yourself completely. Your absence creates a space that only your presence could ever fill, and if someone truly values you, they'll feel that emptiness without needing a single word from you. Absence forces reflection. It gives people time to sit with the weight of your absence in a way that your presence never could. When you're always available, always explaining, always fighting to be seen, you make it easy for others to take you for granted. But the moment you step back, you disrupt the cycle. You break the pattern. Suddenly, what was once constant becomes distant. What was once familiar becomes rare. And that's when people start to realize the value of what they had. But here's the truth. The power of absence isn't about making others miss you, it's about making space for yourself. It's about creating the distance you need to heal, to rebuild, and to remember who you are without the noise of trying to be enough for others. When you remove yourself from places where you're not appreciated, you're giving yourself permission to prioritize your own energy. You're choosing to pour into yourself instead of pouring into people who don't pour back into you. Absence is the reset button for your soul. It allows you to detach from the need to be validated. It teaches you that your worth is not tied to how others see you, it's tied to how you see yourself. The more comfortable you become in your own absence, the more you realize that you're not losing anything, you're gaining yourself. You're gaining clarity, you're gaining peace, you're gaining the ability to sit with your own company and know that you're there enough whether anyone is clapping for you or not. Not everyone will notice your absence. Not everyone will feel your absence, and that's the most painful yet powerful part of the process. The ones who don't feel your absence were never meant to be attached to your presence in the first place. The right people will always feel the shift when you walk away, not because you made a scene, but because your energy carried a presence that cannot be replaced. Absence protects your energy. It removes you from conversations that drain you. It saves you from explaining your worth to people who were never meant to understand it. It creates the space for you to rise without distractions, without noise, without the need to prove yourself. The best version of you will always be born in the seasons where you're absent from what doesn't serve you. The most unforgettable people are not the ones who beg to be seen. They're the ones who silently walked away and let their absence do the talking. They're the ones who chose their own peace over the need to be validated.